Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Mr. Kokosness's class. Um, I'm here to present to you the terms that you might find in one-word answer or cross-match or even just MCQ. So these are coming from psychiatry and mental health nursing. So you'd find that people are just ready to study the big things or the main topics that are there, but forgetting those terminologies that are useful. They're very useful because they're there when you go into cross-match, one-word answer, as well as MCQ. So you need to just get to know these terms so that you're able to answer correctly. So let's directly go into these terms. So the first term that I'm going to look at will be communication. So we find that communication is defined the same way we define it in other courses. So communication, we just say the exchange of information or exchange of ideas. So it can be anything. So between or among people. So this is what we do. Okay, that's communication. Exchange of information, ideas among people or between people. Okay. Then what about language? What is language? So this is a method of which thoughts and activities are made available. Okay, just making available. So these are thoughts. Okay, that's language, meaning that you're able to communicate to somebody. Okay, so we communicate using a language that is understood by somebody. Okay, or if not understood, it can be interpreted. Now, what about agraphia? There's a word we call agraphia. So agraphia is the inability, okay, to write. The inability to write is agraphia. So that's another word that you might expect in mental health and psychiatry. Okay, then what about now when we categorize these terms? So the first category of terms will be disorders of perception. Perception is more of interpretation. So the brain does the interpretation for us. So meaning that we're able to interpret things, for example, objects that we see or sounds that we hear. The brain is able to interpret. Okay, so that is what goes on. Now, when we say disorders of perception, meaning that there should be maybe misinterpretation, or there may be that you are not able to see or see clearly what, or meaning that whatever you see, you might not know what you're able to see, or you just see something different or hear something that is not even there. So these are the disorders that we're talking about. So the first one should be illusion. So an illusion is misinterpretation of stimuli. So a stimuli can be maybe say sound, or it can be an object. So when there is misinterpretation of stimuli in an illusion, meaning that if say for example you are there, somebody says something and just hear something else, or you see maybe a belt and then you think it is a snake, or you see a stump, maybe there was a tree, then they cut it. Okay, then you might think there's somebody kneeling down or standing waiting for you, but then it's just a tree which was cut. So you might think it's a person, but then it's just a stump. So that's illusion. What about hallucinations? So when you go to hallucinations is whereby you're looking at the presence of perception without a stimuli. Okay, so there is presence of perception, but there is no stimuli, meaning that you're able to interpret and judge, but then there is no stimuli, meaning that you're able to hear voices and you're able to interpret, oh, these are voices, but then there is no voice. We're able to maybe see something, oh, that's a ghost or that's a human being, but there's no object, meaning that there's no stimuli, no object is in front of you, but you're able to see an object, meaning that that's what we call hallucinations. Okay, so from hallucinations now we go to disorders of thinking. So thinking, these are just processes that go on in our brain, meaning we process things that we see, then we think about them, meaning we process these information that we receive, then we try to work on them. So meaning these processes have got also disorders. Number one is flight of ideas. Under flight of ideas, meaning that there will be a lot of ideas that will be flowing in your mind. There will be a lot flowing at the same time in your mind. You're thinking about going to the market, buying something maybe, or okay, sleeping, okay, drinking, maybe tea, okay, bathing. So these ideas are just flowing at the same time, and there are plenty. This is what we call flight of ideas. Okay, and then there is also another term under disorders of thinking. which we call retardation of thought. To retard is to slow down. Okay, so now retardation of thought therefore is a slowed thought process. A slowed thought process is what we call retardation of thinking, meaning that the thought process or thinking process has been slowed down. Somebody's not thinking the way they were supposed to be thinking, so the thinking has been slowed down. That's what we call retardation of thought. Then there is another term under disorders of thinking is circumstantial thinking. Circumstantial thinking is whereby somebody talks but does not talk directly. So it's a talk which is not direct, or in short, somebody beats about the bush. Instead of saying something straight to the point, they beat about the bush. So meaning this is what we call circumstantial thinking. Okay. Another term is fragmented thinking. So fragmented thinking meaning that you might have something like this. This is more like one. Okay, it's attached or joined together. But under fragmented, meaning that this will be scattered. Okay, so more like disjointed ideas. So when somebody is having disjointed ideas, meaning that that's what we call fragmented thinking. So you might have an idea. Another idea comes up, but it's not linked to what you're already thinking. Another idea comes not linked to what you're thinking maybe initially. So that becomes fragmented thinking. Okay. Then we go to what we call delusions. Under delusions, we've got what we call the types of delusions actually. So first, let's look at what delusions are. So delusions, we say that these are false beliefs. So false beliefs meaning that you might believe in something, but not true. So a false belief which is not evidence-based, that's what we call delusion. For example, you might have delusions of persecution, meaning that you are thinking somebody wants to arrest you. People are there wanting to arrest you, but it's nobody wants to arrest you. Those are delusions of persecution. You might also have delusions of grandeur. You might be thinking you are this very famous person in the world, and you have achieved things. So meaning that is not even there. It's just a belief that you have in your mind. So these are false beliefs which are not evidence-based. They don't even have that evidence. So this is what we call delusions. Then we'll go to obsession. When we look at obsession, obsession happens, it's about thinking. It's a thought. So it's a thought disorder which comes in repeatedly, meaning you just keep on repeating this thought or this thing in your mind. You just think about something repeatedly. For example, you think about closing the door. You just think about closing the door repeatedly. Again, you may start thinking about just sweeping your room. Repeatedly think about it becomes an obsession because you're thinking about it frequently or repeatedly in your mind. That is what we're calling an obsession. Okay? So it's combined with compulsion. That's why we call it obsessive compulsive behavior. A compulsion is now an act. You talk about it. It's now you act out. You need to now start sweeping throughout. Meaning you're thinking, obsession. You act, meaning you start sweeping repeatedly, meaning you're following what you've been thinking. That becomes now obsessive compulsive behavior. So a compulsion is more of an action of what you're thinking. Okay, so we'll talk about it as well. Then we'll go to paranoid. Paranoid is suspicious behavior. Okay, so suspicious behavior meaning that you're just suspecting that somebody might come here, might want to arrest me, somebody might want to beat me, somebody might want to steal from me. So this becomes paranoid. Okay, so that's what we're calling paranoia or paranoid. Then disorders of orientation. We have also have disorders of orientation. Somebody needs to be oriented, meaning that somebody should be oriented to time, okay, self, and space or place. So meaning disorders of orientation, we have what we call disorientation. Disorientation meaning somebody is unable to recognize these three things: time, space, and self. So the inability to recognize time, space, and self is what we are calling disorientation. Okay, so meaning that somebody can ask you, what is your name? You cannot recognize your name, meaning you're disoriented. For example, where are you? You're in the hospital, but you don't know where you are. You say maybe I'm at the market, meaning you are disoriented. So that's what we mean by disorientation. Then let's look at disorders of speech. Under disorders of speech, we have what we call echolalia. Echolalia meaning echo. You're trying to echo, you're trying to copy. The echo is to copy, actually, or maybe to follow through. So you try to copy something. So echolalia, we're looking at echoing or repeating. Okay, lalia, we're looking at maybe say what somebody is saying. So echolalia meaning that you are repeating the interviewer's words. Or you might have this psychiatric patient. Now you say, for example, you ask them, how are you? Then they also say, how are you? You say, where are you? They also say, where are you? Meaning the psychiatric patient is trying to say what you are also saying, meaning that that's echolalia. So repeating the interviewer's words or what the interviewer says is echolalia. Okay. What about now when we go to echopraxia? Echo is to repeat, praxia is movement. So when the patient repeats the movement of the interviewer or the nurse, we are calling it echopraxia, meaning that they are repeating the movements you're making. Okay, so you're trying to interview this patient, you try to wipe your face. Also, the patient wipes the face. That's echopraxia. Okay, then we move to neologism. Neologism, neo means new, logism, we're looking at language. So neologism meaning that the patient, this psychiatric patient, is forming new words. That's neologism. They're just trying to form new words. So that's what happens. Neologism. Okay. Then word salads. Word salads is a mixing of words. Okay. Only the owner who's saying them can understand. You're just trying to mix words. Maybe say habuba, adagu, hagaga, uguga, dadabuda. You're just trying to mix words, but then they don't make meaning to the listener, but they make maybe meaning to me because I'm the one saying them. Okay, that's word salads. Just trying to say things or words which make sense only to who's saying, but not the listener or the observer or the interviewer. Another word is mutism. When you say mutism, is just simply keeping quiet. This is mutism. Just become quiet. You are being asked something, you're quiet. You don't say anything. You don't respond to any maybe interview. That's mutism. Okay. Then we move on to the disorders of motor activities. Motor simply means movement. Okay, movement like the way I'm doing. This is motor, or this is motor. So now there are disorders related to movement or motor. So these can be, number one, stereotyped activity. Stereotyped activity is repeating now again what somebody is doing. I make a movement like even the patient also does. I do like the patient also does, meaning they are repeating. That stereotyped activity, repeating what the interviewer perhaps is saying or doing. Okay, they make movement like this. Also, the patient follows, does that. Okay, that's stereotyped activity. What about negativism? Negativism is whereby now you teach this client or patient what to do, then they do the opposite. So just the client doing the opposite of what you have taught them is what we are calling negativism. Then what about wax flexibility? So wax flexibility is maintaining an awkward posture, okay, or sustained posture for a long time. So when you see a client maintaining an awkward posture for some time, that's wax flexibility. For example, the client just does like, that's awkward. Now stays for some time, maintaining that posture or sustaining that posture. That's what we're calling wax flexibility. Okay. Then now we move on to disorders of mood or affect. So under disorders of mood or affect, what you have, number one, is euphoria or elation. Euphoria or elation is excessive happiness. You know, you've seen some people who might take drugs, okay, and they become euphoric. So there's some drugs which are psychoactive drugs which somebody can take and becomes euphoric. So that's excessive happiness. That's what we're calling euphoria. What about depression? Depression is opposite. Depression is now extreme feeling of sadness. Somebody might become extremely sad, and then lose interest in pleasurable things. What I mean by that is somebody who likes maybe partying, somebody likes drinking, dressing up nicely, somebody likes eating and all that, they lose the interest in all that stuff, then that's what we're calling depression. So that extreme sadness and loss of interest in pleasurable things, that's what we call depression. Then there's also now another word which we call incongruent affect. Incongruent affect is whereby expected mood does not tally with the current behavior. You expect maybe somebody to be happy because of the way they are behaving, but then the mood is low. They have a low mood, but the behavior shows you they are hyper, but they have a low mood. So this does not tally. That's what you call incongruent affect. It does not tally. The way they're behaving as if somebody is happy, but then the mood is low. That does not match. So if that does not match with the way they are behaving and the mood, behavior and mood do not marry, meaning that's incongruent affect, because it does not tally. So we move on to another one, which is a flat affect. Flat affect, flat. That's flat. So meaning that when something is flat, it means that there is a reduction in the expression of emotions. So meaning that somebody is supposed to be happy. Hey, sir, somebody is happy. But then there is that reduction. Okay? Meaning that instead of expressing emotions of happiness, then somebody is, just low. Meaning that's a flat affect. Another word that we can talk about is ambivalence. Ambivalence meaning that it's the existence of two conflicting feelings. Existence of two conflicting feelings or emotions can be, this side it's sadness, this side it's happiness. Now this person has these two fighting, happiness, sadness, happiness, sadness. So this one does not know where they belong, whether they are happy or they are sad. So these are existing in a person together. Okay, that's ambivalence. So ambivalence is existence of two conflicting feelings in one individual at the same time. Okay, then we'll go to disorders of memory. Disorders of memory, it can occur maybe in dementia. So there are conditions like dementia, so we can have these disorders. So let's look at maybe say amnesia. So when somebody says this person has amnesia, meaning that they are forgetting things that happened. Things that happened can be before the event or after the event. So meaning that that's amnesia, just simply forgetting what happened. Okay? So now let's look at the first one, which is retrograde amnesia. Retrograde. Okay? Amnesia. So meaning we're looking at, when we talk about retrograde, we're looking at loss of memory, okay, of events that happened just after the accident or the injury. That's a retrograde. So when somebody loses memory of what happened just after the event or the accident, that's a retrograde amnesia. Then there's also what we call anterograde amnesia. So anterograde amnesia is whereby somebody loses memory of the events that happened before the accident. So if somebody loses memory of what happened just before the accident or the event, that's what we're calling anterograde amnesia. So this memory loss is common. Okay, they might not remember maybe say their wife, their children, or even just their name. They might not remember where the event stayed. Okay, that's what we call anterograde. Then there's another term we call excuse me, confabulation. Under confabulation, okay, we're saying that you're just creating your own ideas or feelings you just maybe say you're creating your own ideas. By creating your own ideas, what I mean is you have forgotten. Okay, you have forgotten because we're talking about disorders of memory. So under confabulation, meaning that you have forgotten things. Since you have forgotten things, now you're trying to create ideas to fill up on those things you have forgotten. Can you imagine that? Even just to try to fill in the blanks, to say what could this be, because you have forgotten. So confabulation is just you're trying to create your own ideas or just fill in the blanks. You're just trying to fill in the blanks. So maybe this might be this, or this was this was that. because you have forgotten. That's what it means by confabulations, just trying to create your own ideas. So creating own ideas or to fill in the blanks of what you have forgotten is confabulation. Other definitions might be delusions of grandeur, which we've talked about, or grandeur, meaning that you are trying to feel you're a very important person, you're very popular, you own things in the world. So this is whereby we can just say you believe, okay? It's a belief, or you believe that you possess things that somebody cannot even imagine, or you're very popular. So these are delusions of grandeur. Then there's also what we call deja vu. Deja vu, D-E-J-A-V-U, deja vu. It's when a patient sees this strange person, see a strange person, maybe even somewhere, then you believe that you have seen this person before, but you've never met, but you just believe you've seen this person before. That's what we're calling deja vu. So ladies and gentlemen, there are so many terms in psychiatry, but I just wanted to brief you with these so that at least you're able to know that one-word answer should be taken seriously for NMCZ exams, and also you need to know that when it comes to cross-match, they bring these terms. When you go to MCQ, they'll bring these terms. So I just wanted to make you aware that these terms are very important, and you need to study so that you pass those exams, because these will come. So if you like the video, kindly click like, okay, or even share to your friends, so that at least we revise together, we move together, as champions in this career. Okay, thank you very much for watching. Mr. Coco.